Hello, hello. This is Ethan, or Pudgy Budgy, and today I wanted to give another quick log update as far as this game called Hold That Elevator, how it's doing. I wanted to spend a little bit more time kind of just talking to some of the components, and then I'm going to have a bit of a surprise at the end of how I have completely overhauled the graphics and what it looks like today. So here is a quick look as to what it looks like right now. Let me switch views. There we go. So here we're in the game. First one, there's a bit of an issue there. It is very similar to Tetris. You have pieces that go down. In the background, you have these people with luggage that kind of represents these pieces. You put them down into the elevator nodes. You can press enter and they'll just keep moving down automatically. When an elevator fills up, you can hit the button on either side that will close the elevator. It gathers points for how many points you have in there. If you get like a full clear, you get more, that type of thing. There's a few edge cases. So here's like a quick debug instance of, you can see here on the left side, this is where the well stops. And so when I close this well, that one piece of luggage, it takes a second, a little glitchy, actually stays there. And so it splits off from the rest of the piece and continues to move on. And so that's one dynamic. You can see it here as well, where these green and yellow pieces have luggage underneath it. So when you cut with the elevator, they go with the elevator, but the people weren't on, so that they stay. And so there's just kind of a dynamic there. I was really trying to figure out how this should work and what the behavior should be that kind of makes sense based off the dynamics and those types of things. There's a quick look at just kind of the gameplay and what's going on there. We'll switch back into the game view itself. Let's take a quick look, smoke and mirrors behind the scenes. How this all works is, first off, all right, kick things off, there's a game. It's kind of the original script. Inside this takes a look at the main thing. It handles all the input. We've got debugging stuff here, but it's your left, right, up, down, if you're hitting your actions. And then it also kind of does some general setup and reset logic and things like that. And we're going to mostly stay away from the code because it gets too complicated. You're not here for that. After that, there is board view. This handles basically all of the rendering of the... So that was game, and then we have board, and so board is like the Tetris board. So that handles the logic of where the pieces are, where the pieces are, how it's moving, rows, columns, all of that. Board view, how it gets rendered. Piece manager is kind of specific logic for the board about what are the falling pieces, different kind of logic. Is it a valid square to go into? Now, passengers is the background, and so there's kind of this board up front, those are pieces, and then there's kind of this render behind it, and those are the passengers. There is the elevator manager, and so elevator is specifically the visual aspect of it, and so if I actually go over here and show hide it, you can see that like when I hide it, you can just see this like little background view of like an elevator, and that's because elevator manager handles the doors. And it's just got a little bit of trickery there to kind of make sure that the hotel is in front. And then it just has these doors that like open and close statefully. After that, we have the well manager. And so where elevator is like the visual aspect in the background, like elevators and passengers, the well is on the board side of it. And so the well is actually like how the Tetris pieces actually go in, do logic checks, and things like that. And so the well manager is handling like, hey, that button is pressed. I want you to look at what pieces are going on. And then actually it goes out and it kind of reaches out to like the VFX manager, which is handling flashing effects, those types of things. And then it reaches out to score manager for those little floating like points and that type of thing. Then, after that, there's this, so passenger manager itself, right? We go in, you declare like here's a passenger scene. And so if you look, there's like a very modulated person, just for an example to kind of see it. And so there's a man and woman with an idle and walk animation. It's super basic. And then a little color rect here. And then there's a bit of code in the actual passenger itself to turn that into a circle so it looks more like a shadow. And yeah, after that, there's this kind of grid tool. And so this is one of the earlier tools that I made that basically what it does is you go in, you go, hey, there's this many rows and columns. Here's like the spacing I want you to have. Then if you're doing top to bottom to top, or left to right, that type of thing. And then it generates like this big grid. And then Passenger Manager will use like the naming convention of this grid in order to say where they go. And so you can see for like these, 17, 16 up. These are actually like, you can see they're in the elevator. These ones in the middle, this is like the actual the wall location. So they don't actually go into the elevator. They never hit here. So I move them here. And then these are like the other ones. And so as you see passengers move along the floor, that's what's going on here with this mapping. So that's like a quick view as far as what's going on here. There's a whole bunch of code, other types of things going on in the background. But I wanted to finish things off with a cool little bragging piece where yesterday I went in and went, I want to change the perspective of this. I don't want passengers to go from the bottom to the top while the pieces are going from the top to the bottom. And so I started looking at redrawing that background and figuring that out. And it was, I don't know, starting to kind of hit some issues. And I figured out, you know what? I could just kind of move to the next phase that I wanted, which was to actually have a 3D scene. And so this is game 3D instead of game. It has almost all of the same scripts. I say that. There are different scripts for, that's a scene. So there's luggage is different, debug's different, passengers, and passenger manager. So yeah, it's really not that much different. Everything else is still able to handle and run the old 2D thing. Passenger Manager had to switch because now instead of the grid that was there before, it's a different grid because this one doesn't have a marker 2D. It's got a marker 3D. But it's a very similar tool, how it sets up. It's, all the same kind of parameters as there was before. I'm not going to hit generate because I've moved things all around. But with this set up and in place, if I now play on this scene, and we'll... display capture. 1 second, just trying to... Oh, I think that's... Are we okay? Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. OBS, super fun to learn how to use. So yeah, with very similar scripts, I was able to go in and I just kind of made it actually 3D. And so one of the nicest things is that the pieces are actually spawning at the top and then they naturally come down. There is, with that, I think it's a lot more obvious as far as like the piece movement. I still have to do a little bit more. Like I hate right there how it will go through the wall. I need to kind of update and then shift some of these positions so that it kind of moves diagonally in and then back out into the elevator to make that all line up. Able to have elevators, which are just like now it's all 3D blocks instead. I added a very quick rotating door up above that whenever a piece spawns, instead of spawning it at the first position, I put one invisible position above, and then I just spin the heck out of a door. And so it just has this great little effect when people pop in. And yeah, like I'm going to kind of work on next, I think, of actually when I close this elevator of lifting the people up. It's we're in 3D land at this point. I can just take everything on there, start shifting it up the actual Y plane because everything else here is going on the X and Z, and then at that point, it'll look like the elevator's working. Just fade it out as you start to move, and then open those doors up again, and you're good to go. Let me see what else. I guess that's it. There's still a bit more kind of work and things that need to happen as far as debugging. Pieces aren't all working quite as expected. I think I've seen a few issues here where these tiles aren't quite splitting, even though they should with certain cases. And then even like the positioning there of like the scores should be different. So like if I open up a quick debug scene and I cut this, oh, never mind. Hey, look at that luggage did stay, and it should also stay on the right side. So a few things though, like the positioning there for the scores and that type of thing is kind of off. It doesn't work well. There's like the cue positions over here. So there's still things to fix, but like visually to kind of have it here and to kind of see it in this environment, it's so much closer to what I was thinking and just kind of the general idea that first kind of kicked off and went, oh, hey, I can make this. This will look really, really cool. So here it is, looking really good. Yeah, thanks a lot for taking the time to go through, watch this. We'll hopefully have another update as more progress happens. And yeah, appreciate it. Hope you have a great rest of your day. We'll see ya.